Hi guys, let me know if you can see me or hear me. Give me a comment below. Just wait for it to show up on my page. Awesome, it looks like some of you are tuning in. Let me know if you're here. Give me, just say hi or that you can hear me. All right, seems to be working. So I'm super excited for today. I'm going to give people a few minutes to log in, but I really encourage that you grab a notebook or open up a Microsoft Word document or whatever you have available and just journal through points that come up for you today, or I'm going to be also sharing some points at the end of this video for you to specifically sit on or journal on. I'm really excited that this is episode 5 already. I can't believe that I've been doing this for 5 months now. And we're already basically at the end of May 2020. But yeah, again, let me know when you're here. I can see some of you tuning in. Give me a hashtag live if you're live. Give me a hashtag replay if you're catching this on replay. Give me a hashtag new if you're new to this. And I can make a connection with you, or once again give me a hashtag GLTV fan if you are up to date on this whole series. You've seen episode 1 to 4 now, and also let me know where you are tuning in from, because it is really amazing for me to see all the different places that this is reaching or where I'm connecting to people from. So for those of you who are new to this series, if you didn't watch through episode 1 to 4, you might not have such a strong idea about why I'm doing this. You can go back through my YouTube, which is Get Lucid with Lana, or search GLTV. In episode 1, I talk a bit more in depth about why I started doing this series and some of the stories, the trials that I went through to really pluck up the courage to do this. In this episode itself is all about becoming, so it really ties in to this, a reflection of my journey. So until I started doing this Get Lucid TV series, I'd really kept my personal life quite segmented from my work life. So most people know me or connected to me through lucid dreaming. Maybe they know me as a lucid dreaming teacher or guide or coach, but not as much about me personally and what brought me to do this work in the first place. And for a long time, I just posted about lucid dreaming as if that is the practice in entirety, but it's not just lucid dreaming, right? I actually think that the bigger reason behind lucid dreaming is lucid living. Hey Ralph, thanks for tuning in. It's a lucid living practice. That's why I'm lucid dreaming. Tying in all those different elements: spirituality, philosophy, psychology, psychedelics. My journey to success is actually so heavily tied into all of this consciousness exploration. I really wouldn't be here today living this kind of life if I hadn't fully weaved in all of those different elements. But if you are someone who is finding it hard to talk about that stuff, hard to come out as your true authentic self, I get it, because we have such a huge fear of judgment, right? Especially online. And last year that happened to me. Again, you can catch up with that story by going back to episode 1 where this all began. But this year, everything shifted for me. And I realized that if I'm going to do this, I can no longer live like that, just sharing or showing only that single dimension of myself. And this was more noticeable to me because of all the different energetic connections that were coming up in my life. I talked previously about those people who were so angry at me, people who actually preach all this wisdom and spiritual practices, right? So that was so strange because I seemingly wanted to connect with that type of person, spiritual, conscious explorer, I was interested in people who were into psychology, psychedelics, spirituality, dream work. But I realized that I had to be actually living at a certain vibrational frequency to really connect to the people that are really doing that work, not just the people that are here to spread fear or hate or anger or jealousy. So my other half, he also recently shared with me a chapter on fear that was from Brendon Burchard's Motivation Manifesto, and he really writes on this topic in so much detail. So I wanted to start this live by sharing it with you today, because I think understanding this and understanding different quotes like the Theodore Roosevelt quote about daring greatly, which I've also shared, was really where things started to shift for me back in January 2020. So I'm going to share it with you guys. So he says, "We must remember that most cynics and judgmental tyrants are small, frustrated people who take the heat off their own apathy and failure by labeling us as narcissistic strives or undeserving fakes. They belittle us to stop feeling so little themselves. They hide behind a computer or power position to exert an uninformed opinion on us to feel better about themselves. Should they be asked about their own contributions, they fall silent or lash out in incoherent, meaningless diatribes. Theirs is a sad fate, where their only sense of success is to point out our failures." So if any of the above, any of that resonates with you, what you're going through right now, trying to find your people, trying to find your tribe, going along your path and maybe receiving hate for seemingly being your true, authentic self, I really encourage you to dive more deeply into that and look back into episode 1. Anyway, on to this episode. So this episode, at the beginning of this year, I decided to recommit to all these different sides of myself. I stopped not allowing myself to be truly me because of just fear or judgment from other people. And what's happened in the past 5 months since doing this has really, really, really left me completely mind blown. And I want to share this with you because one of the things that has kept me going even when times are really difficult, and likely as a consciousness explorer yourself, you'll have experienced many of these occasions on your own where you maybe feel like everything's just going wrong, right? Nothing is working out. It feels like that. Ralph saying, "We are this tribe." Yes, love that. Those intense moments of fear and doubt. Okay, and if you've gone through those moments consciously, you will know that it's in those moments in particular where it's other people's inspirational stories that can have huge, huge impact. So for sure, coaching, training courses, having your own learning journey, that's important, but it's these stories, powerful words, powerful meanings, when they can come to mind in replacement of those negative thoughts and fears, that's where we really start living like we are fucking unstoppable, right? We become totally unbreakable. And that's really the huge difference in this live series for me, and that's what I want to bring focus and attention to today, because as much as I want to share resources, I want to share trainings, I want to teach, I want to coach, we do have to think about the reason behind why we want what we want, why we want what we need, and how to live these things out in reality. Why do we want to lucid dream? Why do you want to trip balls and do psychedelics? Why do you want to connect with others? Why do you want to build relationships? Why do you want to deepen your spiritual practice? What are the actual deeper goals behind these things that we're trying to understand and what we're trying to attain? So I like to share real life stories as well. Some of my own, some of other people's, anything that I know that helps to inspire me or has helped to inspire others. And this week I want to share my own story with you about what happened just over the last 5 months and how you can apply this to your life. And I think we can all agree that 2020 was not what we anticipated, right? So I want to look at what happens when we decide to act from that truly authentic place inside and not from those places of fear or anxiety. I know that when I start making that a number one priority, everything else just works. It doesn't work the other way around. I would be working 10 times harder. I would be acting from that smaller place. I wouldn't achieve half as much as I have. And yes, maybe I would have those moments where I'd convince myself, well, I stayed safe, right? But that just really, it doesn't compare to all the pros that come from this way of living that I am choosing to live by. And it is a choice to live this way. So since January 2020, really putting all those different sides of me into play, I can happily say that everything in my life is becoming more balanced. Everything is improving. Everything is growing. Business, relationships, finance, health, mindset, how I can contribute, all of it actually feel physically different, right? Like my mind has expanded. And I can feel that what I'm saying has a further reach. So again, this is partially why I'm interested in where you're tuning in from, where this is reaching you. So please do comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Because I believe that this is something that you are doing as well. There's some reason that you've tuned in. There's some reason that you're watching this. There's something that you want to learn, that you want to hear. If you feel this way, send me some flame emojis if you understand the synchronicity and why we connect at certain times. And I think that this is something that you are doing as well. You're actively doing it, right? Even if it doesn't necessarily feel like that, trust me, this is part of it. And whenever I feel this kind of shift, and this is not the first time, but whenever I feel it, I know that it's because I'm about to hit a new level of success. Something big is about to happen. Oftentimes it's something difficult that comes first. A new kind of challenge arises. It's right before we hit that new level. And the image that I create in my mind about this relates back to martial arts, my experience with Muay Thai kickboxing, right? I get so many cuts, so many bruises, so many injuries, so much body strain. I'm enduring that path of physical pain to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually stronger, right? So sometimes it's that pushing through that pain to get to that next level. So today I want to share with you guys 3 things that happened to me, 3 realizations over the past 5 months that really truly blew me away, and share a bit about how you can go through these as well. And I'm not saying that I haven't thought about these things before, but what I'm saying is that it can be easy to lose sight of this kind of stuff, and it happens to the best of us. So the first thing, my first realization of the year, I suppose, was that first inkling of things going wrong. And I think this happened for many of us with the pandemic, right? When in fact, where I am now, looking back on that, I know that this was actually things going perfectly according to plan. But when I decided to do this online series, GLTV, and also my other series, Get Dreaming With, which is more tied into the lucid dreaming side of my work, I positioned myself in a different space. I chose to be visible, right? I put myself on this platform to be more aligned with the new goals that I have, to hit my next level of success, whatever that means to me. On whatever it means to you. And in doing so, I had to shift from a place that I was at previously. And in turn, that means that some things where I was previously will no longer serve me where I'm at now. So it's no surprise that when this happens, when you go through this kind of shedding process, some of those things or people, they start to fade away, right? If it's your first time going through this kind of shedding experience, it can be very scary or uncomfortable. And let me know if you felt some kind of shedding process this year. Just type yes in the chat. Let me know if you felt it, because I think a lot of people are going through this. When I posted yesterday, a lot of people were saying they are really resonating with this topic about shedding and becoming the new them. So the big shift like this happened to me most recently a few years ago when I moved back to London after living in Tokyo for almost 5 years. And this very strong part of me, maybe God or my higher self, whatever you want to call it, started to emerge. And it had been emerging for some time. I was kind of like listening to a few things, but I'd never fully put my attention in. So I decided that I would fully listen, really pay attention to what it was telling me, what was coming through. And what started happening was very, very strange. So by starting up a conversation with my higher self or God, I was really making a decision about the interactions that I want to be having with everyone around me, right? I didn't want to be part of these small talk conversations anymore. The kind of conversations that are all talk, no action. That doesn't excite me anymore. The conversations that are based on limiting ourselves, negative perspectives, restrictions, when we put ourselves in a lower position just to agree with other people, right? When you stop giving power to those things, and by giving power, it might just be to do with how you answer, how you respond to some of these people, what you do in conversations and the way that it feeds them. These people start fading away, or these things start fading away, right? You know, that person who they love to bitch about, oh, did you see so-and-so's trip to Hawaii? They put up photos of them and their new girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. They talk about these things with such anger and jealousy and resentment. And it's amazing how quickly these people stop talking to you or responding to you if you stop feeding the conversation in that way. If you give a response like, oh, I know, I saw, how beautiful, I'm so happy for them, right? How many of you have experimented with something like this, where you've just decided to switch it up and not respond in the way that they are used to expecting from you? Give me a little devil face emoji if you've tried something like that before. Okay, so initially when you start separating yourselves from those type of people, it can feel like you're losing friends. It can feel lonely, especially if that type of person has been in your life for a long time. Maybe it's a continuous pattern. Maybe there are people that you've known from high school, middle school, long time. But there comes a point where you have to see that new door opening, new friends coming in, new connections come flooding in, right? And you have to see how those people are not serving you anymore. None of those relationships are really feeding you in the way that you need to be fed, and you're not feeding them back either because you're not resonating with it. So they start fading away. And in the past 5 months, I can see again how I'm in this new chapter, because again, I'm surrounded by this new level of people. There's certain individuals in my life that are just living from that place of authenticity as well. They're living in that state of abundance. And the haters that I had last year, they don't exist for me in the same way now, right? Because I've stopped responding to that. I've stopped feeding the fire. They can't receive that fuel from me, right? So I can actually see it happening, and it's kind of funny now. I find myself thinking, like, when are they just gonna take off that mask? Like, if they want to connect with me or make a connection with me, which they clearly do because they're commenting on my stuff, they're following it, when are they gonna do it from a place of positivity where they can get a response, right? So the lesson that I learned here, in part of getting to the next level, reaching our next goal, is having to remove any of the baggage that is weighing us down from getting there. We really have to surrender to that process. And I know it's hard, and I see friends do it all the time. They try and hold on to all these people, all these things, all these relationships from previous versions of themselves. And then they just keep questioning, well, why can't I make it further? Why can't I get success? Why is this new way that I want to live not working out for me? And at the same time, they're still complaining about these people and these things that are holding them back, that are weighing them down, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously. So really pay attention to who and what you are complaining about, and whether those things are still serving you, not even necessarily the you that you are now, but the you that you're interested in becoming. Think about whether they are serving you or whether they're just baggage and you're maybe making a reason of why you're still carrying it around. My second realization was about the people that are appearing, right? People who match with me. We think the same, we work the same, we are a match hugely. We're on the same wavelength, we are vibing. All right, even in business calls, even with coaching clients, even with people that I haven't necessarily worked with, but we've just connected a little bit or had a chat. It's been, every single person this year has been a total joy to connect with. It's been so fun and it's been so effortless. I've had some of the just best conversations with people online, conversations that leave me just buzzing, so excited, smiling, feeling really alive. And I finished speaking with a lot of these people with so much gratitude. And I really do thank the universe and God for bringing us together. And many of these people I do end up doing sessions with, and I can help them and guide them to success, to results with their own individual situation. But actually, when I was writing this, I had a friend who I thought of in particular, and they text me just as I was planning this whole session out. They just text me saying they woke up from such a beautiful dream. And even those just few words, that connection of someone just speaking to online, it really brings me just so much vitality and strength. And it's very difficult to put into words unless you're experiencing it for yourself, but just pure bliss, pure appreciation. And it really isn't the strategy, right? The strategy that I'm using in my sessions, that didn't change. I changed. I truly changed. I've got, the lucid dreaming work that I do down to a science. Okay, I did the research, spent years and years doing the research on this stuff. The controls are the same. It's me that's different. It's me, and that makes a difference. So even through the quarantine, I'm able to, obviously not physically, but still very, very deeply meet with and connect with people. And it's amazing the different scenarios that bring people into our lives. I was reminded of this earlier this year when I was looking through one of my journals, and I remembered meeting one of my best friends here in Colorado. You might have seen her on some of my stories. She's called Amber, and she is a streamlined business and marketing coach. She's been traveling the past couple of years. She went through Europe and Asia. She's been all over America. And somehow, with some kind of universal cosmic black magic stuff, she ended up sitting opposite me at a meetup in Colorado, here in Boulder, that neither of us had ever been to before, and neither of us were planning on going to it again. But it was like we both just ended up there for each other. Let me know if you've ever had that kind of experience with a person where it just seems like you were never destined to meet, but there you are in the same space together. Me and Amber, we didn't speak that much in this meetup. We didn't go into extreme details of what we were doing, but we felt a connection. And as we were leaving, we just said, hey, let's exchange numbers. Maybe we'll go for a coffee sometime, right? And I can't pinpoint what it was exactly, but I knew that this was an important person, a very important person in my life, because I went home, I wrote it out in my high performance planner. It has a little section in there, a moment that you're grateful for. And I wrote in that, exchanging numbers with Amber. And how funny is that? And she turns out to be one of my lifelong best friends now. She's like a Latina version of me. She traveled and taught English in Asia just as I did. She got together with her other half, Danny, when I got together with Brian. Danny and Brian drive the same car. They lived 2 minutes away from us down the street. She just started up her business the same time as me. She's a water sign. She's a tea drinker. There's just a lot of things that made me think, wow, what were the chances of that? And yet it was so meant to be. So I do truly believe that these synchronicities happen for a reason, and we come into connection with people for a reason. The third realization that I had this year has been my development with bravery. So when we're able to feel brave, we're able to set bigger goals. We feel invincible, right? We're in that mindset where we can do, we can create, we can be anything that we want to be. We always can, but when you really feel it, it's different, right? When you truly believe it, you can really start living it. And you'll know that experience if you've ever worked with a coach before, and when you get started, they start telling you all these things, all these goals and these targets that you're going to hit, how much you're going to achieve, how your life is going to be completely transformed, and you kind of nod along. You're like, yeah, sounds great, with hope, right? But hope is different to belief. When the belief kicks in, and that's when you really become brave, unstoppable. And that's what happened for me this month. I mentioned in my last video, if you caught it, that I named May Manifestation May, and I said it's going to be my biggest month yet, and it really has been, even during coronavirus, which is just crazy. But like I said, some of the biggest breakdowns come right before our biggest breakthroughs, and that was definitely true for me. And if you've been following me, you'll know that I was getting ready for a lucid dreaming retreat. My retreat is called Dreaming Wide Awake. It was a 3-day, 2-night lucid dreaming intensive retreat, and I was hosting it with my good friend and colleague David J. Brown. He'd never done anything like this before either, so we were really, we spent about 6 months putting everything we had into this thing. We were ready to go. The retreat attendees are ready to go. We got the news that we have to cancel. Groups can't meet up anymore, right? We're on lockdown. And everything that we've been working towards just went on pause. And not just on pause, but not even with a date that we could reschedule to. Just an indefinite pause, right? Still on pause now. This should have been hell for me, but it wasn't, because I'd changed. I just saw this as an opportunity. My first thoughts were, great, more time to add more to this retreat, more time to make things even better, more time for hopefully even more people to sign up, right? Even more people will be able to come. We can make this even better than we dreamed of. And it is. I'm still working on it. I have new ideas every single day that I'm implementing into this program. And it's just growing and growing more and more. And I'm so grateful for the attendees that have signed up, that are patiently waiting for us to get this back on track. But it was that decision, that change, again, that I come back to. Is it, supposed to be, is this kind of a divine timing? Was this supposed to happen? I believe yes. And it changed the time for me, right? Coronavirus changed the time for all of us. So a couple of weeks ago, when I sat down to really think about what I want to do with this time, I was feeling in that powerful, brave, ready to push the boundaries even more kind of space. I asked for some guidance in my dreams. I asked my dreams to show me what's coming next. And I'd set some goals a while ago, but I hadn't thought about them for quite some time because I just didn't have space for it. Those things where you think, oh, it would be nice to do that at some point, but it just ends up going on the back burner. So the goal that I had set previously was launching a very unique lucid dreaming and lucid living online course. And this had been a goal of mine for a while. I didn't just want it to be any course though. This was like a massive dream of mine that I've been developing for such a long time. And I knew it was going to be something big, right? I wanted to really think about the type of people that I want in the program. I want it to have such unique goals. It can encompass anyone's goals, even if they're worlds apart. I wanted to make it intimate, and I wanted it to also, have people making those soul connections together. But, it still had to be professional. It's still got to get the results. It still has to be scientific. But it's going to be just mega, right? And I didn't want to start in anything like that half-heartedly. I wanted to go all in. I wanted this program to be 5 stars. Every module to be top quality, exactly as I'd dreamed of. So anyway, this is something that excites me a lot, if you can't tell. And it kept popping up in my mind every now and then. So I asked my dream for some guidance. I said, show me then, show me how I can change this from just a dream into a reality. How do I go about this? I'm ready. Hi Walter, tuning in from Italy. That's amazing. So a couple of days ago, actually it's probably about 2 weeks ago now, time is going crazy, I have this incredibly vivid dream, right? I'm with a group of women. We're at a villa in Spain, and this villa is actually a place that I've booked to go and stay at in 2021. It's a real place. And I'm at this villa, we're right by the beach, and I'm with this bunch of women, and we're going to go and have a celebratory meal. We're all dressed up, everyone's looking really elegant. I was wearing this crazy bright red dress. I felt so powerful, and we're linking arms and we're walking down to this restaurant on the beachfront. When we get to the kind of sandy area by the beach, the ladies are walking into the restaurant, and I say, I'm just gonna go and look out into the water. I'm Cancerian, I love the sea, it makes me feel so great, so I wanted to spend some time there. And this dream was so vivid. I stood out on the beach looking into the sea, and I can feel the wind on my face, I can smell the sea water. And as I'm looking out, I start feeling this immense force just taking over my body. And in that moment, I realize what's happening is I'm celebrating the course. I'm celebrating how it had gone above and beyond anything I could have ever anticipated, right? It's really similar to a kind of high dose of mushrooms, if you've ever done them and just felt that overwhelming breathlessness, gratitude, love feeling, right? It just left me completely breathless and grateful. Not only just for me and where it had taken me, but where it had got all these other people who were in the course along the way. And once I was really able to take that feeling in this dream, it wasn't lucid, it was just very vivid. So I had no idea that I haven't even done the course. In the dream, it was like I'd done it. And I was taking that feeling in of success, embodying it, processing it, and I woke up. And immediately, when I woke up from this dream, I felt so powerful. I ran upstairs to my computer and I just started creating this course. It was all just pouring out of me. And previously I delayed this dream, right? Because I've been asking all these people these questions. How do I start? What do I do? What program should I use? I talked about how I don't have any fancy video editing skills. And now I'd woken up from this thing with all this dream power. I just opened up a Microsoft Word document and an Excel spreadsheet, and it was all just pouring out. So my point about this realization is that wherever you are sat thinking, I can't do this until I have to take these steps first, or I need to buy this stuff first, or I have to be more pro, whatever it is, if you feel too amateur to start up something, don't. Stop that. Don't even think that, because I've been in that place as well, where I'm just sitting thinking, oh, well, that goal or that dream is just so far away. How am I ever gonna be my own boss or run a business or produce quality content? How am I ever gonna have enough to pay the bills and travel at the same time? All of that, I've been in those places. But what I'm trying to show you or share with you through this story is that what's more important than where you are at physically in the physical world right now is where you're at emotionally. Because it doesn't matter if you just have a biro and a pen and a piece of paper, or whether you have a Mac computer with your own recording studio, right? It doesn't matter. It's how you think and feel, which is what really leads to action. That's what's going to define your future. It's you. You become more aware of what you're capable of. You become more aware of what you're going through and why you're going through it. You start to see the signs. You start to see the synchronicities. You start to see that in everything around you. And you start to realize that you can cope with the challenges, the fear, and you can actually use that as fuel. And that's what's been happening to me over this past 5 months. And it has only been 5 months, right? But so much has happened. Everything speeds up. When I first journaled on my business, I predicted that it would take me 8 years to launch my business. 4 months later, I have my business up and running. That was only a little over a year ago. And so you can create the success you want, even in just a year. It really is possible. Don't let anyone, especially yourself, tell you any different from that. So what I want to finish this episode with today is some questions for you to journal on or either just sit with. It's great to just sit with them. It's even better to journal and meditate on them, and even better to put them into action and really take these steps. And these are the same steps I took to get to this point. So question 1 is, who or what is no longer serving you? And again, I'm talking about not the you now, but the you that you're becoming, right? Who is no longer a match for you at your highest potential, you at your highest self. And I'm not saying that people are not good enough for you, or that you're too good for anyone else, or that you're above people, right? We're all incredible, incredible human beings with a lot of potential within us. But we're simply all at different places, different stages of our journey to becoming. So if we're surrounding ourselves with those people who are maybe still in denial about that potential, we are only limiting ourselves. If we start surrounding ourselves with people who are having those conversations we want to be having, living at those frequencies that we want to be living at, we start shifting into that as well. And Jim Rohn, he famously said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So we have to be so careful about who or what we are spending our time and energy on. Question 2 or point 2 is, what are you adding fuel to and why? Right? It's easy to point the finger and blame everyone else for situations going on. It's easy to say, oh, my mom's always really negative, or this person is always causing me problems. If that just went away, everything would be fine, right? But in what ways are you feeding those certain ideas, certain people, emotions? Are you giving fuel to some of your haters or your naysayers? In challenging situations, how are you adding fuel to that fire, and how can you change that as well? Because there is no smoke without fire, right? Sometimes these people or these challenges show up in our lives as teachers as well. So think about that too, and what lessons we can learn from them, even if it's just, I don't want to be that type of person anymore. Question 3 is then, what are you going to feed instead? Right? It's not enough to just be okay with making space for new doors opening, new connections being made. We have to actually actively take part in the process. What do we want to put energy into instead? What kinds of connections do we want to make? What types of doors do we want to open? Who do we want to become, and why? It's time to know what becoming really means for you. When you change, everything changes. So you can't just sit waiting for that shift to happen, right? For everyone else to change, for the president to suddenly be someone that you want, for coronavirus just to be over, right? For everything just to go back to normal. Start creating that shift today. Start the shift today. It starts with you now. Question 4 is, what excuses are you making that are stopping you from taking that action? So this is what I was talking about earlier with my process of getting my course off the ground. When I was telling myself that I needed more tech skills, that it would require a new computer, a new system, I didn't have enough time for it, right? That it was just a goal that was further down the line than right now. I was too caught up in the how and my own limitations that I had placed on myself. As soon as I shifted that and I felt the joy and the passion, the results, the success, the connections that would be made, the why behind it, anything and everything was possible from that moment. So when we're open to guidance, when we're open to being shown, and we really believe that we can consistently tap into that inspiration, we can let ourselves feel brave, we can take action, that's when we can become. And Coldplay, they got it bang on, right? No one said it was going to be easy. There's going to be constant tests. There's going to be constant shedding, failure, challenge, difficulty, struggle. And like I said earlier, this often happens before those biggest breakthroughs. So don't miss it by giving up right at the finish line, right where it's so difficult and you're ready to give up. That's really where the growth happens. So I hope these questions have helped you today, or these stories that I've shared, some of the experiences that I've had and reflected on over the last couple of months will give you that little burst maybe of what you need to do to become what you want to become. Manifestation May is not yet over, but even when it is, we're going to be entering just fucking go for it June. So even though times are tough for all of us right now, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are physically. If that's blocking you, I really challenge you to just widen your perspective and start living from that place of who you are becoming. Focus on that. Live from that place today. So thank you so much for listening. If you got value from this, please do share it or tag somebody in it so that someone can enjoy this just as much as you have. If something came to mind while you were listening to this, or somebody and you thought they really need to hear this, please make sure they do, okay? Because there have been so many times in my life where just one phrase or one story has completely set off a chain of events for me that I could have never predicted. So looking back, that was a massive part of my becoming. So if you feel like sharing, please do. And if you don't, that's okay too. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for becoming. Love and lucidity. Thanks, guys.